Let me issue a warning. This is an artificial intelligence created video. Some information may not be exactly accurate. Be responsible by consuming this content and take it with a critical eye.
Slavery. It's a word that evokes images of chains, forced labor, and brutal treatment. It's a shameful chapter in human history, a stain on our collective conscience. But here's the harsh reality. Slavery didn't end with abolition movements. It's still happening today, hidden in the shadows of our globalized world. Millions of people are trapped in various forms of modern slavery. They are forced to work against their will, denied basic human rights, and treated as commodities. This isn't some distant problem, it's happening right now in every corner of the globe. This continued existence of slavery is a moral outrage. It's a stark reminder of our capacity for cruelty and indifference. It's time to drag this issue into the light, to expose its horrors, and to demand an end to this barbaric practice. We must acknowledge the suffering of millions and commit ourselves to eradicating slavery in all its forms. The fight for freedom is far from over. It's a battle we must win to honor our shared humanity.
To understand modern slavery, we must first confront its deeply rooted history. Slavery has existed for millennia, its tendrils reaching into every corner of the globe. Ancient civilizations, from Mesopotamia to Rome, practiced forms of slavery. The transatlantic slave trade stands as perhaps the most horrific example of slavery's brutality. This dark chapter reminds us of the urgent need to combat modern slavery in all its forms. The transatlantic slave trade was a horrific period in human history. Millions of Africans were forcibly transported across the Atlantic. They were ripped from their homes and cultures, subjected to unimaginable cruelty and forced servitude. European powers established plantations in the Americas. These relied on enslaved labor for crops like sugar and cotton. Conditions aboard slave ships were appalling. Men, women, and children were crammed into tiny spaces. The transatlantic slave trade left an indelible mark on the world. While the transatlantic slave trade is a particularly horrific example, it's crucial to remember that slavery isn't defined by race alone. Throughout history, slavery has taken on many forms, exploiting people based on factors beyond race. Debt bondage, a system where individuals are forced to work to pay off debts, has trapped generations in servitude. This form of slavery often targets the most vulnerable, exploiting their desperation for survival. Another form, forced labor, compels individuals to work under threat of punishment. This can include everything from agricultural labor to factory work, often in dangerous and exploitative conditions. Sex trafficking is yet another horrific manifestation of slavery, where individuals are forced into the commercial sex industry. This form of slavery preys on vulnerability, often targeting young people and those facing economic hardship. Understanding the diverse forms of slavery is essential to combating this complex issue. It's not enough to focus on one type of exploitation. We must address all forms of slavery with equal urgency and determination.
Humanity denied: the devastating impact of slavery. Slavery's impact is profound and devastating. It robs individuals of their freedom, dignity, and basic human rights. It tears apart families, shatters communities, and leaves lasting scars on individuals and societies alike. For enslaved individuals, life is a constant struggle for survival. They are denied education, healthcare, and even basic necessities like food and shelter. They face physical and emotional abuse, often enduring horrific conditions and brutal treatment. The psychological toll of slavery is immeasurable. The constant fear, humiliation, and loss of control can have lasting effects on mental and emotional well-being. Many survivors struggle with trauma, anxiety, and depression long after they escape their captors. Slavery also has a corrosive effect on societies. It perpetuates inequality, undermines the rule of law, and fuels corruption. It creates a climate of fear and silence, where exploitation thrives and justice is elusive.
Profit over people, the economics of exploitation. Slavery isn't just a moral abomination, it's also a lucrative business. Exploiting forced labor generates vast profits for individuals and industries worldwide. Understanding the economics of slavery is crucial to dismantling the systems that perpetuate it. The globalized economy, with its complex supply chains and insatiable demand for cheap goods, has created fertile ground for modern slavery. Businesses often prioritize profit over ethical sourcing, turning a blind eye to labor practices within their supply chains. Consumers often unknowingly contribute to the demand for goods produced through forced labor. Whether it's clothing, electronics, or food, the products we purchase may have been made by individuals trapped in slavery. Breaking this cycle of exploitation requires transparency and accountability. Businesses must be held responsible for ensuring their supply chains are free from forced labor. Consumers can play a role by demanding ethically sourced products and supporting companies committed to fair labor practices.
While we might associate slavery with the past, the reality is that it's a pervasive problem in the 21st century. Modern slavery is a global scourge, affecting millions of people worldwide. According to the International Labour Organization, an estimated 40.3 million people were victims of modern slavery in 2016. This includes 24.9 million in forced labor and 15.4 million in forced marriage. These staggering figures represent a complex and evolving problem. Modern slavery is often hidden in plain sight, operating in industries like agriculture, construction, and domestic work. It thrives on vulnerability, targeting individuals and communities marginalized by poverty, discrimination, and conflict. The global nature of modern slavery demands a coordinated international response. Governments, businesses, and civil society organizations must work together to disrupt trafficking networks, protect victims, and address the root causes of this heinous crime.
Hidden in plain sight forms of modern slavery. Modern slavery takes on many forms, often operating in the shadows of our societies, from forced labor in factories to domestic servitude in private homes. This crime often goes unnoticed. Forced labor involves individuals being compelled to work against their will. This can occur in various sectors, including agriculture, construction, and manufacturing. Sex trafficking exploits individuals in the commercial sex industry. Victims are often coerced or trafficked across borders and forced into prostitution.
Confronting the crisis, a call to action. The persistence of modern slavery is a stain on our collective conscience. It's time to move beyond outrage and channel our anger into meaningful action. We can no longer tolerate a world where millions are trapped in servitude. This fight requires a multifaceted approach, addressing both the symptoms and root causes of slavery. We need stricter laws, stronger enforcement, and greater international cooperation to disrupt trafficking networks and bring perpetrators to justice. Businesses must be held accountable for their supply chains, ensuring they are free from forced labor. Consumers can play a role by demanding ethically sourced products and supporting companies committed to fair labor practices. Education is also crucial. By raising awareness about modern slavery, we empower individuals to identify and report suspicious activity. We must also address the root causes of slavery, such as poverty, inequality, and discrimination, to create a world where everyone has the opportunity to live in freedom and dignity.
Breaking the chains, strategies for eradication. Eradicating modern slavery requires a comprehensive and collaborative approach involving governments, businesses, civil society organizations, and individuals worldwide. Strengthening legal frameworks and improving law enforcement are essential first steps. This includes enacting and enforcing laws that criminalize all forms of modern slavery, providing adequate resources for investigation and prosecution, and enhancing cross-border cooperation to dismantle trafficking networks. Businesses have a critical role to play in ensuring their supply chains are free from forced labor. This requires conducting due diligence, monitoring suppliers, and implementing ethical sourcing practices. Transparency and accountability are key, and companies should be held responsible for any exploitation within their operations. Empowering survivors is crucial. This includes providing access to essential services such as shelter, healthcare, and legal aid, as well as supporting their reintegration into society. Addressing the root causes of slavery is also essential. This means tackling poverty, inequality, and discrimination, promoting education and economic opportunities for all, and fostering a culture of respect for human rights.
A future free from slavery, a shared responsibility. The fight against modern slavery is a shared responsibility. It demands a collective commitment to justice and equality. We must refuse to accept a world where millions are trapped in exploitation. Imagine a world where every person is free to live a life of their choosing. This vision requires unwavering dedication and relentless action. By working together, we can create a world where freedom reigns.